So excited. Welcome to You, Me, and the Trinity's Christ Connections and Conversations. Tonight we are having the mind of a man. We will be discussing the plight of the single active father when good ain't good enough. I am your sister, your cousin, your auntie, your friend, Coach Ebony Lachelle. I just want to start like, hey, King, hey, hey, Kings, hey. Got that courtesy of Deacon Glover down there from
It's just
1906.
Richard. It's just Richard. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Got that 1906 tease, and if you talk to him nice, he might give y'all a 08, a 8% discount. You talk to him nice. I don't know.
I might need to create a discount code just based on that. I might need to do that.
Look, type in there, hey King, hey King. DM him, hey King, tell him you want something, you saw this broadcast, and you might talk to him nice. But anywho, hey, look out, hey, Ivy. So we are discussing the plight of the single active father. So we have a new panelist with us tonight. So we'll start with him, let him introduce himself, tell you a little bit about him, and we'll go around and then we'll get started.
All right, I guess that's me. So my name is CJ Mathis. I currently reside in Arkansas. I don't know what all you need. What all you want to know?
Whatever you want to tell us. Whatever you want to tell us.
Yeah, so I work in higher education. So I work in college retention programs as a profession. I just recently received primary custody of my almost 4-year-old daughter. So, yeah, that's pretty much my life: work and parenting.
Okay. Micah.
So, I'm Micah. This is Ivy. Can you say hi, Ivy?
Hey.
Let them see it. See? Okay. And so a little bit about me. I have Ivy. This is my daughter. I work in customer service for a diabetic supply company. And I've been in ministry celebrating 10 years, a full decade of ministry on September the 30th of this year. And I'm excited about that. Emery, if you're going to be in the camera, at least speak, baby. Can you say hey?
Hey, Emery.
My niece, Emery. So we got it going on. I called myself trying to be here so that Ivy would have somebody to play with so she could be distracted. But that's me. I live in Birmingham, by the way.
All right. Richard.
I'm Richard Glover. I'm a native of Savannah, Georgia. I currently reside in Savannah, Georgia. I co-parent a 12-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son who are actually with their mother this weekend. My primary profession is occupational therapy. And I also have a little side hustle where I do some shirts, as Ebony alluded to, 1906tees.com, where you can find custom gear to wear. And I made a special shirt for tonight because I got the theme. And so let me, can I do it? Can I show it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Black father, do it for the cause, not for the applause. Do it. Nice.
Yeah, so that's the long and short of it. Like I said, my kids are 12 and 11, and I've been co-parenting since they were 5 and 6, 4.5 and 5. So a little bit of a unique perspective on that. So I was really interested in the topic that was brought forth about the plight of the dad. We don't often think about the dad when we think about single parenthood. So I'm hoping that we get some good talk tonight.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. And again, I am your host, Coach Ebony Lachelle. I am one part of You, Me, and the Trinity. My partners, Elder Kim, she had an emergency, and Coach Jay has the flu. So I am holding it down for us tonight, but I think we're going to have awesome conversation. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. As single fathers, how do you think, and anyone can jump in and answer this, how are you fighting the deadbeat stereotype? And Richard, Michael, either way.
So I'll if uh I'll yield to Richard if he wants to go first.
You got it, Michael. You got it.
But one way that I fight their stereotype is this right here. I decided that I did not want to only be a weekend parent to my daughter. And I made a suggestion to her mom that we alternate weeks. So for 2 weeks out of every month, I have Ivy, in which I fully 100% spend time with her, support her, pay for her all of her things. What's wrong, baby? Pay for all of her things and whatnot. And so that was the start for me, was to actually spending time with my daughter.
Okay. Richard.
I don't even give credence to the idea of deadbeat because the number one thing that flies in the face of that is when you are present in your child's life. And the first aspect of manhood and fatherhood is presence. You got to be there. And so even though I have a parenting plan that is mandated by the courts, agreed upon by my ex and myself, I make it a point to be present at all opportunities, whether it be extracurriculars or even when they're with me. There's a lot that can be said for spending time with your child when your child is in your care. A lot of people have their kids and someone else is with their kids when they're supposed to have their kids. So I can combat that because we do things together, we spend time together, we engage in family activities together, and they get the full benefit of having an extended family relationship with my siblings, with their cousins. I'm keen on family. I'm the youngest of 6, so I grew up with family mindset drilled into me. So and my father was the father of 6 kids, husband of 1 wife, 49 and a half years until she went on to glory. So the template for me was always presence in the home with the father. So the idea of deadbeat, that doesn't even resonate with me. In fact, I hate a deadbeat because that makes men who are trying to be good fathers look bad. We have to answer for the sins that someone else commits when we ourselves aren't committing those sins. So yeah, I'm anti-deadbeat too. And so by being present and being active, I confront that head on.
Okay. All right. So did you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I just think generally, I don't know if we'll get to this later, but I know that there's a lot of talk, even in the description of this, there was talk about how, sometimes mothers can use children as weapons against the fathers. And I just want to say, I think the one thing that I have done is I fought for my daughter. I fought tooth and nail, and I did everything I had to do because I was not going to not be a present father. And that's how I ended up with primary physical custody.
Okay, so we can move right into that. Have you personally experienced where you felt that the mother was using the child as a weapon against you? Okay, and if you would answer to that, go ahead, Michael.
I'm gonna say yes. CJ, I mean, brother, I applaud you. I really do. Because just 100% transparency, because this is family, right? 100% transparency. I'm in family court right now fighting simply for joint custody of my daughter to continue that schedule. We've gone to court 3 times, and it's been a struggle. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that my daughter's mom uses the fact that she is her mom to try to control and manipulate me into doing what she wants done. And it's okay to have a co-parenting relationship as long as both parents have decided that the child is the one that you're trying to parent and not the other parent. Yeah, your nose is running. And not the other parent. And so realistically for me, I hate that my daughter is experiencing that, and I hate that she's being used in such a fashion simply because it's not right. It's not fair to the child. But every day that I wake up, I still instill in my daughter. I call her. I still tell her every day, baby, daddy loves you. You my sweet. You the sweetest girl in the whole wide world. All of those things, reassuring her that no, contrary to what me and your mom may be experiencing through a legal system, does not change how your father feels about you. And it's so amazing because for the last 2 Valentine's Day, I want my daughter to understand what love feels like before she has to experience it from somebody else. I bought my baby gifts for Valentine's Day, and I see her on Valentine's Day and things of that nature because this is my daughter and I'm responsible for her. She wears this shirt right here that says love my daddy to the moon and back. And the truth of the matter is I'm going to go to the end of the world for her. And so it doesn't matter, like CJ said, it does not matter what enemy, what force, no matter who it is that's trying to, destroy that relationship, that bond. I'm going to fight tooth and nail for my daughter. And that's all that it doesn't. I don't care about anything but this child right here because Ivy Elise Carter is me.
Thank you. Richard, you have anything you want to
Yeah.
comment on that?
And again, I also commend CJ. And I want to dispel a myth that those of us who do not have full custody are not putting forth a valiant fight to spend as much time as we can with our children or child. And each state is different in how it views maternal and paternal rights with children. The state of Georgia is very heavy on maternal rights as opposed to paternal rights. When I was going through my divorce that involved custody issues, my attorney was very clear. He said, short of your soon-to-be ex-wife being physically abusive or sex trafficking the children or strung out on cocaine, you have very little chance in the state of Georgia in receiving full custody of your children. That was on the front end of the conversation. I've been back to court on more than one occasion to petition for more time after our initial parenting plan was established because I have a son and a daughter. And my son, I think, needs more of an influence from a in-person standpoint than even my daughter does. I agree wholeheartedly with what Micah said. My daughter, her first dates were with me. We've been to daddy-daughter dances, maybe 3 of the 6 years that, and 2 of those years pandemic-wise. So I instill in her not just a love for father-daughter, but heavenly father to her as daughter. I try to make sure that my kids understand that my role as father is authorized. The authority is given to me by my heavenly father. So I'm not just making wild, crazy ideas of what parenting should be like and how they should be treated. I'm following a guidebook that has rules for me as well. And so both parties don't see it that way. I'll say that diplomatically. Both parties don't see it that way. So because my goal is to bring positive influence to my children's life, a lot of times the weaponizing comes in withholding access. Even though the parenting plan says one thing, when they're in my care, this is how I'm going to run it. Until there's a problem when you need the battle axe daddy or the disciplinarian to step in. Then, I need to get on the phone with you and him and y'all need to talk about this because, and she doing this and well, that's great. And again, that's my role, but it's not my only role. I'm not a whipping boy. I'm not your personal henchman as it relates to parenting. I'm an equal co-parent in the development of our children. And so the weaponizing for me has come in with the inability to access them to be able to impact them positively, except for when I have to pull them back from the brink of harm's way or prevent some disaster. Or there's something going on at school. There was a time in elementary school when the teachers at the school knew me, and when they saw me coming to the school, it was because there was something going on negatively with my son. And the point that I made to him was, wouldn't you like daddy to come to school and just have lunch with you some days? Wouldn't you like to see me and not your chest start pounding because oh Lord, I'm in trouble? He said, yeah. And so I made it a point to do some of those things to break in his mind this idea that the only time I see daddy is when it's a problem. And when I see him, he's mad with me. Because see, that in and of itself is weaponizing the child against the parent. When I'm viewed as the saint, mother, and he's viewed as the devil, daddy. so that there's a disdain even in the time that we spend, because everything on my shoulder is all about discipline, 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 when actually I want to do some nurturing too. Actually, I want to have some positive experiences too. And so parents, sometimes it's unwitting, sometimes it's intentional, create this idea that the father has to be the one with the belt. The father can never be the one with loving hands. And so that's a weaponizing of the children as well, when they're conditioned to think that, oh man, daddy's strict. My daughter told me, Daddy, I know you're strict. And I'd never said anything to her to that tone at all. We were talking about something unrelated. She said, because I know you're strict. And I was like, wait a minute. What about me is strict? You got an iPhone, you got your own bed, you do what you know. But it's, again, a programming that happens when the child is with the mother and the views of the mother are projected into the child. So, that's a weaponizing. And that's a painful weaponizing, because as a father, you want to stand in your duty and responsibility to lead your children effectively. But at the same time, you want to have fun with your kids. If you have a parenting plan where you only see them X number of days a week or X number of days a month, you don't want to spend every one of those days with a belt in your hand or whatever tool of discipline you use. You want to be able to say, hey, man, let's watch some Spider-Man movies together. One of the things that I did with my son was, we're going to watch the Spider-Man movies from beginning to end, because we went to see Spider-Man No Way Home in the theater. And so he didn't know the whole story because those movies predate his birth. So when we get together, we watch a movie. But if you're on punishment, if you're not cut up over here, I can't have fun with you and watch the movie. I got to do the daddy thing. I got to do the punishment thing. But I speak to my children and I say, now, wouldn't you rather us spend time doing positive? I don't control that. You give me options on what I can do as far as my role as daddy. So if your behavior falls in line, well, sure, we can do the fun stuff. But just know, when it's not in line, it's not my fault that we're not doing the fun stuff. So, but that's not, again, all parties aren't teaching it from the same textbook.
We can't hear you.
I was muted, sorry. So the art can encourage negative behavior so that the child can see the father. So do you think that children can start to act out just to spend more time with the other parent? Do you see that happening, with yourself or with other fathers?
I think I definitely see it a little bit in my child. I think because, me and my co-parent just parent very differently. And, I'm, like I was mentioning to y'all earlier, I don't really allow her a lot of screen time. I try to have like specific rules and a bedtime and things like that. And so, every time I get her back, from her mom, there's usually a transition period where I have to deal with 20 minutes to hours of tantrums every night until she gets kind of back in the swing of things. And from what I've learned is, sometimes when she's with her mom, again, when that transition happens, she maybe throws tantrums there. But I know that kids are a lot smarter than what adults give them credit for. And they learn very quickly who I can do, where I can do it. And so that's why I think, regardless of what happened in the intimate relationship with the parents, it's like you need to work together, because if they don't learn how to follow rules and they don't learn how to follow structure in their home, like what are they going to do at school? What are they going to do in the workforce? Like it's just it's a never ending cycle.
Absolutely. Can I jump in real quick? I just saw somebody say that the main point is to never, even though you're apart, never talk down towards the spouse. That is printed in black and white in my parenting plan. I adhere to it to the letter, but both parties don't do it the same way. And see, the courts can't or don't actively enforce those nuanced things in the parenting plan. But heaven forbid you miss a child support payment. The court is immediately on you, because the onus on the father is always the financial responsibility. But things like uplifting the other parent and maintaining that isn't something that the courts are enforcing. So it's very easy for the mother of my children to give them a reason why a behavior is occurring or isn't occurring with me, and me not be able to defend it, because in doing it, she's talked down about me. But I can't say your mama's a liar, because I try to adhere to the rule of the law as it relates to the parenting plan and even the higher law, because talking negatively about my child's mother has an emotional impact on my child because that's their mama. And who wants to hear anybody talking trash about their mama? So the reality is, even when we don't, like CJ said, kids are perceptive. My kids have become very keen on asking me questions to verify things that they've asked of their mother because they trust my response. And they trust that it's going to be even keel. And they trust that it's not going to say, yeah, because your mama crazy when she said that. They know that's not coming. But in them asking me, it tells me that when they ask her, they hear, yeah, because you know your daddy crazy. So what do? When you are the person who's the primary custodian of the children, you do the most pouring into them positively or negatively. And so it's hard to refute those kind of things. And so walking the straight and narrow, doing what the parenting plan says, picking up the kids on time, dropping off the kids on time, paying child support on time, buying school clothes, all these kind of things. These are admirable things, but that's baseline. That's what the state expects. It's the how you speak about the other parent, how you involve the other parent in decision-making. Those are the things that are written in the parenting plan, but nobody goes back and enforces those when a mother makes a decision that impacts the father and his parenting that's outside of the realm of the parenting plan. And so if this were a 5-hour live, I could tell you several stories about situations where the parent of my children made a decision without my consent or agreement that impacted what I did with my children. And because they were in her care, I had to respond to it. Or not respond to it. I'm bound by the decision made by that parent when they're in their care. And conversely, it creates a warped sense of, well, that's my child. I gave you those children. No. Not so. God gave us those children. He put us both in a stewardship role over our children. They may have come from your womb, but that's my seed. And if you want to go to Maury, we can go to Maury about it. But mine look enough like me where it ain't no contesting that. So, we talk about the weaponizing, we talk about the fair and the equity. And the reality is the expectations that are high for men to be good fathers, people just assume that that's going to happen. And like I saw somebody come and say, I wish so-and-so did want to be involved. Well, for those of us that are, there's no real reward basis on it because we don't do it for the applause. We do it for the cause. But there's no gratitude for that. You still get people, yeah, man, it's hard being a single mom. When you have an active dad, you're not a single mom. When the father is contributing to the spiritual, the social, the psychological, the physical development of that child, you're not a single mother. You're co-parenting with another single person, but you're not a single mama in the traditional sense of, Lord, society got to have pity on me because they got a no good man. That's the narrative that people continue to spin that doesn't give men who are doing what men do, silently doing it without, celebration, that don't give them their flowers for doing it. And again, we're not looking for somebody to clap their hands or clap us on the back, but we're just looking to not hear the continuous bashing of men when we are actually not in the minority. Good fathers are not in the minority in the Black community. That's the great myth, that because there are unmarried couples that have children, that ergo it's a bunch of deadbeat dads. Not so. But how do you disprove that lie other than by trying to live the truth,
I want to piggyback real quick off of what Richard just said. Actually, a couple of different things. The most powerful thing that he just said right then is what's the nuances that's in the black and white are never really looked at or enforced, and how decisions that one parent makes affects the other one. Real quick story. Because this is so spot on. An issue that kind of sort of is brewing is right now. My daughter is in 2 different schools because she spends 50% time with mom, 50% time with dad. But mom is looking at the situation of that she's a single mother. and as if she doesn't have an active father. And she made a decision to send her to a school that did not fit into a constraint that I have. DHR requires that the child in this program cannot be at school more than a certain amount of time. Mom sent her to school there knowing that that time did not work in my schedule. And so it amazes me how, again, all of those things, that those little different nuances, and how including parents. But one thing that I do, by recommendation of a close family friend that happens to be a judge elect here in Jefferson County, expressed to me, is always validate her. Even if she doesn't do it for you, always validate her, because that's what people look at when it comes to being an active father. So anytime, and I have never contested the fact, if we're talking about, not tearing down the other parent, I've never contested the fact that my daughter's mom is a great mom. She really is. She's a dynamic mom. But the reality of it for me is I can tell her that. I can express that to her. I had a conversation with her a little over a year ago around Father's Day, and I just simply asked her, because she's never wished me happy Father's Day. She's never given me anything for Father's Day. And I'm not saying that because I want it, but every year for Father's Day, I tell her Happy Mother's Day, and I send her a gift for Mother's Day, because she is my daughter's mother. But I asked her around Father's Day one time, I said, why is it so hard for you to admit that I'm a great father? Why is it so hard for you to give me credit for being an active father? And she responded in a text message and said, I don't know. Not that I wasn't one, or not that she didn't believe I was one, but that's a culture, a dynamic that has simply kind of sort of been created, is that when a lot of times some mothers who want to play that single role and use their children and weaponize them want people to see a narrative that the father is not doing a good job. I don't publicly get out there and tell people that I'm going through a situation right now, but the reality of it is I'm gonna, I'm in that space. But at the end of the day, I'm still telling her, thank you for being a great mom. I'm sure that we're dedicated to getting to the other side of this. There's going to be resolve. And I continue to tell my daughter, I love you. I continue to tell my daughter, me and mommy may not see eye to eye about this concept or whatever the case may be, because she understands that there may be some tension even at her young age. She's very brilliant. And so with that being the case, I'm going to be quiet now because she's coming out of a bag. But ultimately, supporting and letting her know,
Please pick her up.
Yeah.
Pick that baby up. So since we're already kind of on the topic of conflict, we had a question that came up that says, I think this was, what do you do when you're trying to be in your child's life, but the mom won't let you and isn't going by court guidelines? So, gentlemen, how do you combat that? And also want to touch on, how are we doing damage control for the conflict that is occurring? So, we do have those moms who do talk down on the father. How are you doing damage control with that?
Well, I guess I'll start. I would say I'm assuming that everybody that's watching this are people of faith. And so I would say, if you don't already, get you some spiritual mentors or spiritual guidance, because that is literally the only way I've been able to make it through the situation I've made it through is through faith. And so I just, the things that I can control, I control. I try to be positive. I try to always do what I know to be right. I always do what I think is best for my daughter. And when the things that I can't control, I pray about them. I fast about them. I talk to my therapist about them. I talk to my pastors about them. I talk to my friends about them, but just to kind of keep me on the straight and narrow. And I would say, kind of on the flip side, similar to, I think, what Richard said earlier, I don't want it. I think people always assume, or I've heard a lot in my community, is just like when dads say that they can't be in their kids' life, like, well, take her to court or take her to court. Like, it's just that simple. And like, having gone through this process myself, one, the courts do seem to be lean more to the mothers from the beginning, especially depending on what state you're in. Secondly, if you don't have a ton of money, like you cannot fight. Like fortunately, we sold our house and I had the half of the profits from the house. That was the only way I was able to afford to fight. I have spent over $20,000 on legal fees in the past 18 months. That's not counting the money that I was paying in child support. Me and my co-parent live 800 miles apart. So every time I went to pick up my daughter, I had to get hotel and rental cars and all this. So I'm not even including all of that cost. Just what I have paid to lawyers is $20,000+. And I know that not everyone has that kind of access to financial resources. And even if they do, who wants to? Because what people even kept telling me is you're spending all this money and you're probably still not going to win. And so it's just like nothing's guaranteed at the end of that. So if you spend 2 racks and like, you still end up where you were at the beginning. So it's not easy. There is no one thing. I would just encourage you to, as much as possible, continue to interact positively with your co-parent. Take notes about what's going on, screenshots, whatever you can do. And so if you do have the resources to take the legal route, do so as much as possible.
I would interject there also and say a couple of things, piggybacking about what CJ said, taking notes. I would go grab it real quick, but I don't want to leave real quick. But I have a composition notebook where any form of communication that I have with my daughter's mom, I write the date, the time, and the nature of the conversation. If it's via text, I take a screenshot of it and put it in an album so that I'm documenting everything to show why my daughter needs to have this, at least an equitable relationship with her father. The other thing is when, and CJ said it right, it's not easy going through a court system. I'm gonna be completely honest and transparent here and say the very first day that we went to court was April the 25th of this year. I left court so upset, so angry, because I felt like this was not going to go in my favor. I had been one time, and the only thing that they had said to me was, you have to submit to a DNA test. That was the only thing that the judge said. And I got in the car because I took my mom with me because she kind of sort of keeps me level-headed sometimes. But I got in the car and she said, Micah, you can't get wind in your jaws because when you display that behavior, judges can sense that from the bench. And the last 2 times that I've been back to court, I've been cool, cold, and steady because I said, like CJ said, developing that faith-based relationship, the truth will come out and God will fight my battles for me when it comes to this child right here. The other thing that I would say in relation to it, it's a double-edged sword. You don't want to force yourself. And I've seen it. I mean, my oldest brother could talk about this for days because he has a 17-year-old son that he probably hasn't seen in 2 or 3 years because of this exact reason of trying to be active and being so distant and so far because his son lives up north and he lives in Florida. And he's supposed to come during the summer. And the parent, he could talk about it too for days. But the point that I'm making is you get to a point where you have to weigh what's most important, because as a father and as a protector, you want to maintain that relationship with your child, but you also don't want to destroy their image of their mother. Richard said earlier, nobody wants nobody talking bad about their mama. That's just not something that they want. But it is really tough to maintain that balance and to maintain that status. But by the grace of God, we continue to press on. And so I would just encourage the brother who asked the question, I would encourage him, do what you can and what she allows you to do. And in the interim, like he said, establish that faith, man. Start praying about it and ask God for direction as it relates to that situation in that scenario. If you get some extra resources or you make some connections, because that's one thing that I have had working in my favor. I don't have a whole lot of money. I do not. I mean, I'm just being honest. But what I have is made connections and relationships with people who could help guide and direct me into the right path to things to do and to make this in this journey. So the only thing that I can say is listen, if you got a pastor, a mentor, a therapist, anybody who has connections or who know it, as a father who wants to do, people will see that and honor your commitment, because God will start to send people in your path, in your direction, that will help you get what it is that you're trying. If you are sincere, if your heart is pure, God honors that commitment. And that's all I got to say about that one.
Let me respond on this real quick too. Somebody asked a question about communication with a child that's not in their care. One of the things that the Mediation Center here did when I was preparing with my visitation plan was they recommended a software package called Our Family Wizard. You can do a Google search or a Bing search, whatever you search, and find Our Family Wizard. It's a software package that allows co-parents to communicate. It also has communication between each co-parent and the child. And the other benefit is that you can set up payment systems through it, so it records and documents money sent. You can set up notification of appointments so that it records and documents that it was sent, when it was received. And when it's time for the courts to go back and review that information, they can be provided access. Your attorneys can, the courts can, to see what communication has been made. The package at the time that I purchased it was $99 annually per parent. The first year that we had it, my ex said, I can't afford it, financial hardship. I paid both parent fees. The second year, oh, I can't afford that. I paid it the second year. Now, my goal was I want to be able to communicate with my children. They didn't have devices like they have now because they were, at the time, 5.5 and 4. So they could still use the computer to send messages if given the opportunity. By the third year, it was clear that there was going to be no financial responsibility from their mom. So I discontinued that, but I continued my communication via email, because the thing about email is it tells you the time, it tells you the date, and you can't dispute that it's been received. The only time it shows it's not received, it'll send you a message undeliverable. So documenting your communication is important, but it also helps you to be in charge of your emotions in your communication. The Our Family Wizard package actually has something that reads the mood of your message. It's some high-tech way for them to pick out words that might give the impression that you're being a hater or that you're angry, and it'll recommend that you change what you're saying before you send that message. So it's a tool that helps parents to communicate effectively for the benefit of their children and to their children. So if you're not familiar with that, go, and I don't get no endorsement money because Lord knows, I wish I did, but Our Family Wizard, I think it's ofw.com, but if you search for Our Family Wizard, you'll find that software package. Read up on it, and if the other parent doesn't want to get it, pay for it. It's worth that investment to have demonstrated the effort to stay in contact with your children. Because a lot of times we get the bad end of the stick, the short end of the stick, because we can't evidence what we've done. You know, there's many a man who's got a child with someone and they're paying cash out of the pocket, and 10 years later, they're in arrears for child support because they've never documented what they've done. And as much as you think the mother of your child would never do it, oh, they'll do it. Because Shakespeare said, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. If she's upset because you've moved into a new relationship, or because you've ended that relationship permanently, or because you've decided that, hey, whether it's another person or not, it's not going to work here, but I need to be involved for my children. You know, spiteful, vengeful behavior will rear its head when you least expect it. Things will be going great, and all of a sudden, the holiday that you were supposed to have a kid, something happened and you didn't get your kid. And what do? It's mandated in your visitation plan, but you can't go kicking somebody's door and grab a child, because now you're doing what? Going to jail.
You breaking the law.
And so, as somebody told me, and I don't know if we have any listeners of different national, you're putting the white folk in your business now. See, you try to handle it separately, but now you got the white folk in your business. Now you got to go to court for something different because you couldn't keep your head when all about you were losing theirs and blaming it on you. But something that CJ said earlier about the financial cost to quote unquote fight, on my last return to court, or to my attorneys, because we've tried to do things to avoid the actual cost of court. So the attorneys do a lot of back and forth. The retainer for my attorney was $7,500. That was to retain his services. My consultation was $450 to talk to him about retaining his services. All he did was talk to me in the office and tell me, oh yeah, you got a case. That was $450. So when people say, yo, you got to fight for your children, the real question is, why is there such a financial hurdle that fathers have to have the basic level of interaction in their children's lives? It should not be the onus of the man to spend all of his worth in the court system with attorneys and then not have that money to pour into his children. Because given my choice, I take the $7,500 that I gave an attorney and give it to the kids. I put it in an account. Your mama can manage the money, but I'd rather not give it to the attorney because now I got the white folk in my business, and my kids are still wondering, well, they got the fresh kicks. Why don't I have the fresh kicks? Well, it's because you have an attorney make us both talk sensibly, you know?
I wanted to, just while we were on that topic, I know Our Family Wizard is a paid service, but there's also a service that me and my co-parent use called App Close, and it's actually free. I don't know if it's as high tech as Our Family Wizard with the reading the tone of your messages, but like you can video call, message, set appointments, exchange money, all of that, and the app is completely free. So nobody has a reason not to download the app.
Good deal.
A lot of it really is just for your paper trail as well. I mean, when different topics come up, a lot of times people wonder, like, I feel like the government is another thing that's really predictable with the women, that because it's setting you up for single parent homes, it's setting you up for, if the father's out the household, he can get food stamps, or you can get TANF, or you can get some of this other stuff. As well. I mean, I was just listening to conversations and just piecing a lot of stuff together too, as far as with the child and, you know, attitudes, mood swings, just learning different things, just being able to pick up on that child attitude. And one thing as a parent is when that child is able to come and talk to you instead of trying to hide stuff, and instead of trying to, you know, throw different obstacles in, straight A students, you know. So you feel like as a father that isn't given that opportunity to be there with your child and everything, to make it to sports games, to make it, you know, doing homework on the phone with each other. I mean, just doing things to stay continuous in that child's life. I mean, a whole lot more than the headache of dealing with the mother sometimes as well.
Okay, now Willie, you got to tell us who you are, because we didn't think you was gonna make it. You can't just jump on the stage.
One thing I wasn't gonna do is let the devil keep me down or whatever. My name is Willie Jackson. I'm from Dothan, Alabama. When I was first invited on this show, I was very, very excited. All week I've been excited, and at the last moment I get food poison at Captain D's, but I wasn't letting that stop me from coming on the show, you know. So
make a note of that. Go eat at Captain D's.
But I mean, when I first talked to her, I said, I hope this is a serious show because it's something that I feel really about. This she sent me a link to look, you know, really get to know everybody and everything. And I mean, I think it's a great thing that's going on, because it's kind of opened eyes up for some of the people that are trying to find resources, or some of the people that have questions and different things that don't know the answer to them, or trying to find a way out, and then we giving them insight on what they're looking for. You know, so again, my name Willie Jackson. I'm from Dothan, Alabama. I played football with Troy in 2007. I've been in the military for 6 years or whatever. I got 2 girls myself, 14 and 11. You know, they live with their mother, you know, and I got one that her mom is, no matter what it is, we meet halfway, we do this, we do that, we co-parent, and then I got one, if I want her, I got to come and get her. I got to go drop her off. I got to get her clothes while she here. She can't bring no clothes, so I mean, I understand it both ways. But I won't let my daughter down, because I know I'm better at it than what it perceived, you know. There's no need to make the child feel left out because of what you and the parent got going on.
Right.
Okay. Awesome.
Can I say one more thing about creating spaces to be present even at a distance?
Yep.
Right.
You know, 21st century technology is great now. You know, everybody's got a means to do a video chat in their hand. So one of the things that I did was I made sure my kids had iPhones, and I got an iPhone. So FaceTime is not an issue. You don't have to download the app or whatever. Now, whether or not they're allowed to do it, that's a different story. But setting the stage for them to do it is something that a parent has to do, a father has to do, because you can't fall back on, you know, she'll never let him do. Well, the question becomes, what have you done to create an environment for this thing to happen? I'm gonna give a quick example. My son is a bright kid. I think he's still got some transition issues as far as, you know, the two-parent household issue. And okay, somebody said get the kids some Androids. That's child abuse, man. That's child abuse. I'm reporting you to the authorities. But he academically, he's bright, but he's not always driven. And so I've been petitioning to have more time with him for study. Well, that has not fallen always on the most receptive ears. But this weekend, I got a text to say, hey, here's a worksheet that he's working on. When is he free to FaceTime with you so we can work on this worksheet? Now, mind you, never mind, I might have had plans today. Because when you're a parent, it don't matter what your plans are. Ask any mother. When you're a parent, it don't matter what your plans are. So I took the screenshots, printed off the worksheets, gave a time. We got on FaceTime at that point in time. We talked through the exercises. We went through stuff. I said, now you work on it and call me back. Because the idea that he can trust that if he needs me, I'm available for him.
You're going to be there.
In my personal grief or beef about how we have to communicate in this interim. Because I'm playing the long game. Right now, he's 11. I got to lay up September with him. So when he's 16 and making tough life choices, he knows, well, if I can't get him no other way, I can get him on FaceTime. I just need to let him know when I'm going to call him and we can talk. So to those that are having trouble with getting the other parent to allow you to access and communicate, you can't be passive about it. You got to continue to press to be actively involved. And when I was a kid, they used to say, pressure break a pipe or bust a pipe. If you keep applying that pressure, eventually you'll break through. Now, it's not going to feel comfortable applying the pressure, and it's not going to be encouraging when you're applying the pressure and not seeing any results. But it's worth it to your children to feel the continuous drip, 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 drip of the pressure that you're applying in your efforts to break through. They need to know that you are making the effort, because just like Micah said, and just like CJ said, these kids are savvy early. They can sense the nuance. One more thing. When somebody says something about not talking ill of the other parent, the way I get around that is to go back to the word. I teach my children to honor their mother because that's the first commandment with promise. So how can I teach them to honor her when I dishonor her? So it keeps me alive, and it keeps me alive under the authority that I have. That I'm not saying be kind to her because I like her. I'm saying be kind to her because that's your mother. So even if you don't like her, be kind to her because that's your mother. So I'm okay with not bashing her because vengeance is mine, says the Lord. He'll repay. I don't have to do nothing to make her look bad.
And then it's that respect factor.
It's going to show. What I need to make sure is that I teach them the principle of honoring your mother. So on Mother's Day, I don't buy her anything, but I make sure that they buy her something because that's their mom. So I want them to understand this is important. And if they never get any impetus from her to buy me something for Father's Day, it don't make me any less of a father. And I'll never question her about it because her motives on what she does are her motives. I know where mine come from, and I know who I got my mandate from. So I teach them based on that. And the hope is that when they're at an age of discernment, they say, all the while, Mama been shady and Daddy been enlightening. I'm going to try and choose the lifestyle that Daddy's leading me and not fall into the shade that Mama's trying to throw. So I don't even worry about it. I know that there have been things said about me as a father. I know it because you can pick up some kids the vibe. But I know one thing for certain and two things for sure. They'll never, ever, ever be able to say that I've said a disparaging word about their mother. Not once. Because that's their mama. I wouldn't want nobody talking trash about my mama. My mama been deceased for 14 years now. So, you know.
To answer, she asked you a question. She said, why would you not buy the mother anything if she bringing it as a mother? not as companion, but as a mother.
No, I don't buy for her because she's not my mama. I
No, it
encourage
was a
my
question.
children.
It was a question came across that just asked you a question.
Right. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. I saw
Okay.
it for clarity.
Okay.
I don't do purchases because she got a man in her life. If the man in her life want to pamper her as the mother of the child that they got, that's great. But I make sure I instill in my children that they get something for their mother. Because the principle don't say, I got to honor your mother. It say you got to honor your mother. So I'm teaching them to follow the biblical principle. Yes, she's a mother to my children, and I teach them to honor her. I don't dishonor her, but I make sure that whatever they want to get their mama for Mother's Day, I finance it because they don't have a job.
Well,
but
you
I don't
bought it.
say, baby, I bought you some perfume. Happy Mother's Day. Because that's not my role. That's not my role.
Well, if you
That's
get
her
on the
role.
money, you done bought it.
Say again?
What, Michael?
I just wanted to say I agree with what Richard is saying. This is what I do. My daughter's mom loves coffee. She loves Starbucks even more. And so what I would do is I would send her a Starbucks gift card, e-gift card that says from Ivy, Happy Mother's Day. Ivy is 2 years old almost, and she does not have a job, like Richard said. So I get the point, the perspective that he's making, but we want to make the clear distinction that is not from me, the father, it's from the child. I might have financed it, but the reality of it is I financed it because the kid ain't got their own finances. And so I agree with him 100% on that. I would never get my daughter's mom a gift and say Happy Mother's Day from me. But if Ivy said, because she'll get to an age, she'll get to a point where she'll say, hey, Dad, I want to get Mom this for Mother's Day. Well, okay, baby, let's go pick this out for your mama. And you give it to her. She can't do that now. So I'm doing it on behalf of her, like he said, to instill in her the idea that you need to show your mom love on this holiday, whether her mom instills in her the idea that you need to show love to your father on that day as well. I agree with you 100%, Richard.
And let's be clear. I'm gonna amen that, Micah, and I'm gonna add a bonus before you jump in, Willie. Now, Somebody asked the question, what if she's single? It don't matter if she's single. It don't matter if she's married. It don't matter if she's widowed. It don't matter if she's tricking. The whole point is that she has children who need to learn to honor her. I had to learn to honor my mother. My father taught me that by making sure that I gave my mother money when I earned money as an appreciation for the things she did, like making breakfast or making our lunch when we went to work during the summer. My role as father is teacher of the children, not because, see, let's be clear. Let's not pretend like it's not dudes out there who got baby mamas that they buying lingerie and cologne and perfumes for Mother's Day. You're trying to make her a mother again. You're not trying to teach the children to honor the child. Let's be real about that now. So for those people who feel like, yeah, I need to be celebrated for motherhood, that's great. But you know what? Mothers got a whole holiday where the world shut down and you don't have to cook. Fathers have to work on Father's Day because y'all want us to grill. Or you would get a thankless gift like a tie. A tie in its origin was simply a narrow handkerchief. So you're giving me something useful. But heaven forbid I roll up with something useful on Mother's Day. Oh, no. But the whole point is, no matter what the gift is, it has to be in keeping with the honoring of the mother learned by the child. So that's my perspective on it. And nobody has to agree with that, but I got to make sure that my kids know that before I leave this earth, they're abundantly clear on who their mother is and what the honor is. And I'll add a bonus. There was a time briefly, because I just got divorced again, different story, different podcast, but there was a bonus mom in the picture. So my kids were taught that while she's in this role as bonus mom, you need to honor her because she's playing a role in your formation as a child and doing things that a mother would do. So I didn't buy her Mother's Day gifts, but the kids did. And that was, at the time, my wife. But I made it clear to her, this ain't about me and you. This is about them and you. They have to learn a fundamental principle about why honoring a parent is important. Because how can we say we honor a heavenly father, but we're not teaching our children to honor earthly fathers and mothers? That's the whole idea. This thing is bigger than I'm trying to make her feel special. What I'm trying to do is mimic the relationship God has with men. when we talk to pray, we talk to say our Father, because there's a certain relationship that goes between child and father. The things we seek from a father, the things we expect from the father, the things we demand from a father. Not to say we don't get them from a mother, but it's not about whether or not I like that person. It's about teaching those fundamentals. So every opportunity, when you're a parent and you're limited in your time, you got to make every moment a teachable moment. So that's my approach on that.
So, as we get ready to close, Richard has already kind of touched on this, but I want to ask each one of you, how are you leaving a legacy of impact in your child's life?
I'll go first. I think it's for me, when I talk to my kids and everything, different relationships in different way and different meaning. So it was me, the daughter, two kids by two different parents. My first child, the mother of her child, I accepted her as a friend before we joined that relationship. So our problems in that relationship, we was always able to revert back to that friendship. And that's how, once we ended the relationship, our friendship took over. So it was for me, as far as explaining things and everything, you put stuff into perspective, because I think for me is more that is taught, or is more that is instilled into you. It's easy just to do something by remembrance instead of it is doing something by your heart. So if you put in forth the effort, everybody is not going to see things the same way. But as far as my kids, making sure that they know that their mom and their dad care about the way that they're upbringing. They care about the way that their grades. Because I'm going to make sure that your grades come before sports. I'm going to make sure that you respect, or is not going to be any sports. So I think the upbringing and making sure that the kid know the difference is not what I know where I've been through. So I'm trying not to let you go down that same path that I traveled. So being able to understand the difference in us not being together and us coming together as a parent to make sure that she's brought up right.
Oh, CJ?
I think for me, I think coming up in a single parent, Southern Black home, I feel like there's kind of this feeling of, you do as I say, not as I do. I think one of the things that I'm trying to leave with my daughter specifically is basically teaching her that her voice and her opinion matters, and showing her how to navigate like her different emotions and things. So even though she's 3, like when I tell her to do something, like I have a conversation with her. I don't just say sit down because I told you to sit down. We talk about like, hey, you might want to sit down because what I see you doing now, you may hurt yourself. And if you hurt yourself, daddy's going to be really sad. And you probably don't want to make daddy sad, and you probably don't want to hurt yourself. And so I know, again, in the Black community, a lot of people don't see things that way. But I see so many people. And quite honestly, I think that's why a lot of people have issues with having mature relationships, because we've never learned how to adequately communicate our feelings, communicate our emotions, and come to a compromise with other individuals, because all we was told is like, you do what I say. And we think that if somebody loves us, they're just going to do what we say. And that's not how human beings work. And so I'm just trying to teach her to live freely.
Micah?
So I guess for me, it's twofold, right? This conversation that I had with my dad, this would be the first fold. This conversation where I had with my dad a few years ago, and I expressed to my dad that his generation were raised by people who really did not know how to show love. My dad is 62 or 63 years old, one of the two. I can't remember right now. But they were raised by people who really who loved them, but didn't know how to show that affection, didn't know how to show that love. And that's one thing, that's one fold that I want to instill in my daughter, is I want her to not only see the love, but I want her to feel the love that her father has for her. When I wake up, or when she wakes up and I'm standing there in the door of her room, and she reaches her arm out at me and say, "Daddy," that melts me because it shows me. And that's what I want her to understand, that her dad loves her. The second fold is, and this is, since we're talking about legacy, I want my daughter to not only understand that I love her, but I want her to understand that I'm going to protect, provide for her, even beyond death. So now I am setting things in place through mutual life insurance policies, through generational wealth, setting it up where my daughter will be able to, talking to people and finding out about programs that will help her establish her now, so that when she gets ready to go to college, she'll have income and she'll have those things work. So that way she's building, and so that when dad's gone, because inevitably we all will leave this earth, right? But when I'm gone, she don't have to depend. I don't want to say it like that because I don't want her to get this attitude that I don't need a man, but I want her to be able to understand that my dad is still love me so much that he took care of me. He's taking care of me after even he's no longer here with me. I can still feel that presence, still feel that love. So those two things, knowing that she's visibly and physically and actually being able to feel the love and affection, but also developing some generational wealth for her, to establishing for her, so that way she always can say that my dad took care of me. And that's what I need to see in a man who says he wants to marry me.
And Cassandra says, also establish a POA in the event you're not mentally able to make decisions as a father. So I thank all of you for coming on and being transparent, sharing your life with us, sharing your journey on what it's like to be an active father. In a world where it's applauded for women to come out and give off this air that they're doing it all by themselves. I love you all. Thank you so much. I am extremely proud to know each and every one of you and know parts of your journey. It's a beautiful thing to see active Black fathers. Oh, Richard, you already answered the question, but answer it again.
I'm sorry, beg pardon.
You already answered it.
No, I want to answer the part about legacy, because this resonates with me. The legacy that my father left me beyond property and wealth and was faith. He taught me about God from an early age, and he made sure we were in church at an early age. And he was born in 1934. He wasn't from the era where it was touchy-feely, hug you, love you. So I had to learn about love languages myself to be able to transfer that to my kids. But the one unequivocal thing that I've made it a point when I first became a father was I want to instill in them a love of Christ. Because in all that I've gone through, and I didn't know when they were first born that I was going to be dealing with divorce, courts, and all this kind of stuff. But I know that whatever my dad came through in the 60s and whatever he came through raising 6 heads of kids and putting his wife through nursing school while he was raising 5, 6 heads of kids, there was a faith that sustained him. And he taught me about that. And so it's my mission to teach them about that, because what Micah said is great about having wealth beyond death. But I need them to understand that they got to store up treasures in heaven, because that's the wealth beyond death that's going to really make a difference. And I want to see them when they get to heaven, because I'm planning on going. So I got to make sure that they're prepared to take that as well. So a lot of times we don't talk about the legacy of our faith, but that's the thing that sustained us. That's the thing that make us who are active dads. If you notice, there was a common thread to what everybody said about faith. So if we're not making sure that we're actively pushing that legacy, then what are we doing? What are we living for? The next generation is doomed if we're not trying to instill the faith of our fathers in them. So that was my answer. That's why I wanted to have a little say-so on that, Coach Ebb. I'm sorry. My apologies.
That's okay. And a bit as a truly single mother who had her child's father fight her in court only to not do any of the things that he fought me to do, which I was not trying to not have him do. I do applaud y'all, even though I know it's not for applause. I applaud y'all, and I am proud to know men who are out there actively trying to live a legacy, trying to leave a legacy, trying to show their children that they love them and that they care and what being a good Black man looks like. So thank you so much. If nobody else tells you thank you today, thank you for being great fathers. This has been You, Me, and the Trinity's Christ Connections and Conversations, discussing when good ain't good enough, the plight of the active Black father. Thank you. We love you, and good night.